Welcome. Welcome to Mandy's Not So Small Talk. This is a space for real conversations, the kind that we may not necessarily have out loud about relationships, emotional patterns, and the quieter realization that actually change how we live. If you're new here, I'm really glad that you found your way. And if this kind of conversation resonates with you, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps this space grow and it lets those slower, more honest conversations reach the people who need them. So thank you. All right. So I want to let you in on this. I've been sitting with this thing for a while now, and it didn't come as a sudden realization. It kind of came slowly through repetition, through noticing the same kind of dynamics that kept showing up and the same kind of feelings that I would have afterwards. So for a long time, I thought that giving someone emotional access meant I had to be the one sharing the information about myself, that I was opening up, talking about my life, letting someone know who I am. And because I actually don't overshare early, I believed I was being boundaried. I thought I was taking my time. I thought I was doing things in a grounded way. What I didn't understand was emotional access doesn't only come from what we say about ourselves. What I see now is that emotional access can happen without me saying very much at all. It happens when I'm present, when I'm listening, when I'm calm and I'm regulated, while someone shares something vulnerable, when I don't interrupt, when I don't rush, when I don't turn away. That kind of presence is intimate. It's powerful. So even though I wasn't opening up in the traditional sense, I was still offering deep emotional access because I was holding space. And holding space isn't neutral, a form of intimacy. So I started noticing that the same kind of capacity I offer in my work, being present, attuned, and grounded, was something I was giving very freely in my personal life. And I realized that kind of capacity, it needs to be met and not assumed. So holding space for someone's inner world is essential in a relationship. It's how safety is built. It's how trust forms. It's how two people begin to meet each other more deeply. But what I've learned is that timing and reciprocity matter. So when that level of access is offered too early, before there's actual mutual curiosity, mutual presence, and mutual investment, something becomes imbalanced. Not because holding space is wrong, but because one person is giving intimacy while the other's receiving it. And what would often happen for me is this. Like a man would start talking about his ex or about what went wrong in a past relationship or about something painful that he's been through. And I would just listen. I wouldn't say much. I wouldn't share my own story. I might do something gentle and neutral like, well, I'm sorry I experienced that. Or, yeah, relationships can teach us a lot about ourselves. So I thought I was being emotionally mature, grounded, present. But what I understand now is that I was offering capacity before there was reciprocity, or he had made an investment, for example. After those conversations, they would often feel better, lighter, relieved, and I didn't. I felt unseen, unmet, like nothing about me had actually entered the space. And then often there would be a pullback, not dramatic, just subtle. And that's where the confusion would start. So we need to understand what vetting is versus emotional processing. So I want to be really clear about something. I'm not saying that we shouldn't know anything about someone's past early on. I actually think that it's healthy to have basic context, knowing things like whether someone was married, whether they have had children, how long they've been single, whether they've reflected on their past. If they completely blame the other person, it's also a flag. So this kind of information, it helps us orient. It helps us vet for safety and alignment. But there's a difference between being informed and being made the container. Context is calm. It's factual. It doesn't require emotional labor. Emotional processing is different. That's when someone isn't just sharing information, they're reliving, unloading, testing, or needing some sort of reassurance. And that kind of access belongs later after there's actual mutual presence and investment and security made between the both of you. So talk about something called triangulation. Over time, I also began to notice how often past relationships were being brought into the space. Exes talked about early on, for example, referenced often, sometimes subtly, sometimes very directly. And this is what emotional triangulation is when intimacy is managed through a third presence instead of being built directly between the two people. One example is when an ex becomes a constant reference point early on, not necessarily because the person wants them back, but because the past is still emotionally active. So instead of the connection forming between us, it starts forming around their history. And even if you begin from a secure place, something subtle can happen over time. And you start to feel you're just standing in the shadow of someone else. The relationship isn't really landing in the present. Another form of triangulation is when someone says things like, "You're not my usual type," or talks about other people that they're attracted to while still emotionally engaging with you. There's closeness and there's distancing, warmth and removal. That inconsistency doesn't create clarity. It creates self-doubt, not because you're insecure by nature, but because the emotional field isn't coherent. Another version is when trauma becomes the third element. Someone shares deeply about pain or past wounds very early, without curiosity about your inner world. So you become the container. They become the sharer, and it can feel intimate in the moment. But it doesn't actually build a relationship. It builds imbalance. And what I noticed over time is that I often began these connections feeling secure. But as the pattern continued, the unloading and the pullback, the X talk, something shifted inside me. I didn't suddenly become insecure. I became stabilized because when you're emotionally engaged, but not being met, your nervous system starts trying to make sense of the gap. And then that's when the confusion turns into quiet self-doubt. So I actually believe that a healthy connection needs to be established between two people first before deeper past relationship dynamics are brought into the space. Not because the past doesn't matter, and not because those conversations aren't important, but because security needs to be built in the present connection first. I need to feel us before I can hold what came before. When there's mutual interest, curiosity, and presence, then those conversations add context. They deepen intimacy. But when they come before any real sense of connection exists, they can quietly undermine it. There's no us yet to hold that information. So this becomes especially important when children are involved. When someone has kids with another person, that relationship doesn't disappear. They're co-parent. They're ongoing. They're going to have ongoing communication. And there has to be respect. I understand that reality. And it doesn't threaten me. But what matters to me is how it's held and how it's introduced. There's a difference between saying, I have children and I co-parent respectfully, and saying, this person will always come first. You need to be okay with that before any bond has even formed. So even a secure person can feel like there's no place for them to matter. That's not jealousy. That's the nervous system responding to a lack of relational grounding. So what I've learned is that emotional access isn't just about what I reveal. It's about what I hold. And holding space should unfold slowly, mutually, not when X talk comes up early. So I'll say something simple and honest. Honestly, I don't really like talking about exes when I'm first getting to know someone. I'd rather focus on what's happening here. So that's not rejection, that's orientation. What I watch for now is what happens next. If someone has emotional capacity, they respect that. They slow down, they get curious, they stay present. If they don't, then they may pull away, keep triangulating, or lose interest. And instead of internalizing that, I recognize it for what it is. That's just information. That person is not for me. So in closing, I don't think emotional maturity is about becoming harder. I think it's about becoming more honest with ourselves, with our energy, and with what that actually feeds. A healthy connection. Holding space is beautiful, but it's meant to be shared. And when it is, it doesn't leave you confused or questioning yourself. It leaves you feeling met. So thank you for spending this time with me. And if this resonated, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And I'll see you next time, or you'll see me next time in my next video of Mandy's Not So Small Talk.